Hello and welcome back to Tree of Statism. I'm Noah Goodman. I'm going to first of all want to apologize. I have not been posting for a few weeks, with a few reasons, but the most important one was that I was sick. Unexpected events happen. We're going to try to do it better, handle things better in the future, but at the end of the day, I'm only human and, well, events happen and unexpected things are going to disrupt the channel from time to time. Also, it should be noted, I am not a king and my personal life is irrelevant. But over the course of history, the personal lives of kings have shaped history. Any kind of event like me being sick would have been much more important, and must not forget that monarchies are filled with personal relationships and people being sick, which affected entire states for extended periods of time. The death of a king was often a horrible event for kingdoms, because after a good, stable king ruled for a while, heirs started fighting for power. Often, many of the internal problems also surfaced, and different factions didn't start backing different candidates in order to get their issue solved. They would back whoever was the candidate that was going to help them, not necessarily the candidate who was the most legitimate. This meant that every time there was a death of a king, it could start a civil war. Kingdoms then needed to regrow, and because the state was now weakened, often after the civil war, external powers invaded. Now, even if the civil war ends quickly, the damage that can be done in a short civil war can last for decades or generations. That is to say, rebuilding, replanting, getting new wealth to replace the old wealth, and most importantly, getting new people to replace the ones that died can literally take generations as you wait for people who were just born to come of age and become um, functional in society. That is to say, the kid that is born today is not going to replace the farmer that died yesterday for the next 10 or 15 or 20 years. He needs to actually come to an age where he is functioning in society. And all this is, of course, assuming that one disaster does not lead to another, if there is at least time to regrow before the next problem. So, an interesting question would be, how often do kings actually die? What is the average length that a king rules before he dies? Historically speaking, it was about 15 years. Now, 15 years means that every 15 years we could have another civil war, which would be just catastrophic if it keeps happening again and again too often. Um, it's not quite sure exactly why it's about 15 years. However, I think the best explanation is that that was about the difference between kings and their firstborn sons. That is to say, that let's say there's a king that rules for a long time, he comes to the age of 80. By this time, his son is in his 60s. He's starting his reign very, very late, and he's not going to live that much longer than his father. That means that, if his father died at a certain age, there's a good estimation that his son might also die at something similar. Um, if we're going to go the other direction, let's say that a king gets the crown very early when he's, let's say, 14. Well, his father has to die very early, and that means that his father ruled for a very short time before handing the crown over to his son. So for the king to start at 14, the father king must have died at like 30 or 30 and a little bit. And that means that that rule was kind of cut short. Any way you look at it, having a new king every 15 years and having the possibility of a civil war over the crown every 15 years didn't make the best system. For these reasons, monarchies have tried to prevent these civil wars over the succession for centuries. This is something that took a long time to fully resolve. In most places, in some places it wasn't fully resolved. But the main idea was that when the king dies, he should be replaced by a single person, one of his sons, even the worst of his sons. Just make sure it's a clear person that is chosen, and not that they have to fight over it, and not that there will be any kind of civil war to get the next monarch. Now, due to the problem of kings dying, even the slightest sickness could often cause unrest in the faction. The moment it is uncertain how long the king will die, factions start to back heirs. To prevent this, you need a strong heir, someone that you know he's going to live long after the king, you know he's going to be the king, and that even if there is a sudden death, there is no need to panic. We know exactly who's going to be monarch without a question. The king is dead. Long live the king. The point of a strong heir is to change monarchs without anything else changing. This way, a king's mortality is nothing. You know, the new king is just like the old one. Democracies have strongly changed the way society functions because you can change government through elections. Instead of a need for a civil war to change policies, to get the new heir to support whatever it is you want, groups can just advocate and protest. They get the voters out and they all go vote, and when the faction needs something, there is no need to fight a civil war. If a president is one they do not like, they conspire to defeat him in the next elections. They try to do some kind of coalition, or they try to have some kind of new good candidate, but there is no need for a civil war. This allows you to change the state without wrecking it through a civil war. Even the way president dies changes in democracies because the head of state is just replaced by the vice president. That is a strong succession. His mortality is nothing since the clear succession will go to the vice president, who will be voted out of office in a few years, or at least you'll get a chance to vote him out of office in a short period of time. So the mortality of a president is a lot less dramatic since people don't need to have a civil war to change the state after the president dies. And so the question remains, does the structure of monarchy still matter today? And the answer is yes. We still have a bunch of monarchies around the world, a lot in the Middle East and in Asia. Uh, in the Middle East, they're very, very active. We're not talking about kings like King Charles in England, where he's kind of a figurehead, but he doesn't really do much. We are talking about kingdoms like Jordan, like Saudi Arabia, like the UAE, like Kuwait, where heads of states are kings and they act like kings, and their succession works the same way with the same problems. They've always worked. We also have a bunch of unofficial monarchies where they call themselves presidents or chairmen, but when daddy dies, suddenly the son takes over, like in Syria and in North Korea. Hey guys, I'd like to wrap up this video by reminding you to please like, subscribe, and comment on my videos. All these things really help me out with the algorithm. If you have criticisms or think I can improve, comment. I'd like to get some feedback. And watch my other videos as well. If you like them as well, do the same over there. And if you really, really want to help me out, if you really want to take interest, you can always buy my book. It's on Amazon. And Kapistan by Noah Goodman.